Right, ChosenHeart Israel, daughter of God first, versus defendant, state of Georgia, and the United States of America, and the the European Union, NATO, and all the states of the United States Corporation and worldwide. ChosenHeart Israel says the defendant is indebted to the daughter of God first, Israel, as follows. Because the state of Georgia is accusing me and my children and whole family of being a black African American criminal and is using the United States Corporation and its laws with the United States Constitution, Bill of Rights, and also civil rights, and the OCGA to enforce and train and collect fees and debts from my mother and entire family. It has put a price on my head and children's head, as well as the entire ChosenHeart family of God as children first. It has, along with trained employees, enforced work and salaries and protect private public property with police and volunteers who have collectively interrogated me with organization and non-governmental organizations and unincorporated towns and counties with their beliefs and written laws that left out the fact that all belong to God rather than one color of men or women, who said, we agree to, the people, this state and all states use the same process to make jails, courts, schools, and clothe it with a dark past, a king and its so-called independence, using its ideas of a church and physical property with the use and organization of so-called non-profit organizations that use names that incorporated themselves and retrieval federal money from the Federation and Confederation that helped bring and organize the Confederate groups and flags and police, as well as a so-called separate but equal lie, causing me and my family to be dispersed throughout the world, causing a family breakdown through so-called marriage laws that stole my family with the last names of a slaveholder, and called it a master, and enforced the last names through marriage and a written contract, and have separated all the courts and judges, and to be trained and read what is available and lack real evidence of the Bible. They used the King James Version and used it to keep all people as well as other religions to keep us still and quiet, and treated me and others like chattel by bringing me to jail at the very place the Trail of Tears was enforced, and removed me and others out to Mexico before I was born, but placed me in the same bed of lies by accusing me of public indecency and something about governmental property, and enforcing me to hear at a trial using the children of God sexual things with labels, white, black, Pacific Islander, and other labels I don't know. The accusations have nothing to do with me, and none of the organizations set up were and are able to represent nor speak up for me or my family. I am not money nor a color of law. I am God's chosen heart daughter, and have been threatened, harassed, abused, and called names that pertain to the enforcement of schooling at your colleges and with your doctors and behavioral facilities, as well as your fire departments and hospitals, and insurance companies and drug companies and governmental institutions and businesses that are owned by individuals who hold up the vast majority of the land with lies about commerce and everywhere I have placed my foot. I was never allowed to own, speak, or create, or even think without the influence of the United States of Americas, and the United Kingdom, Britain, federal counties, local, and state law. As a result, my whole family has never had the above as well. And love has never been easy, whether with man and woman or children or family members. Because of the above conversations and with your lawyers and prosecutors in music, radio, telecommunications, advertising, marketing, military, and stealing land. And God's chosen heart children to work and fix nothing at all but to protect it. And I am an adult and mother that does not need supervision, nor my children's father. Everywhere I go, I and my whole family are seen and treated as consumers of food, clothing, light, land, other materials, and not one thing, even a pet, deserves to be supervised and acting as a father. And I do not agree with the dollar and the flags worldwide, and no one should claim God's land. It's his world, and he has his own love and understanding, and it is not this. He is not amen, semicolon, or all seeing eye on the American, semicolon, dollar, and used to enforce it on people with the Our Father prayer and lies about him and your God money in the pursuit of its happiness. Given to some in the churches, claiming it is separation from church and state, but it is all under one roof and house of its representative, the governors and U.S. Senate, presidents, Arthur Phillip and his family, and forced to speak, and with families who have kept their last names and their families intact by using the money as its legal tender to continue their inheritance and heritage of continued power in place, to use the organization to take up and steal land, animals, water, and children, and force sexual abuse in the name of property, and used it to enforce gay rights under the civil law, and have participated in war and criminal activities and drug wars, and hold the world's land that grow the drugs to give to those they say are sick in one way or another, and have acted as a god, semicolon, and forced arguments and guns into people's hands worldwide, and have used words like immigration or alien to keep my family and others apart, and have used it to uphold prostitution, and have caused women, men, and children to be beaten, raped, molested, and stuck with nowhere to go, with homes that are built by contractors or have been put in certain areas in a particular way to accuse people of being poor or poverty stricken, and use banks to build and fix and provide mortgage as and with so-called credit, analyzing the individual. And when I say this, I mean human, because you have become the individual person or natural person that is using it against God's chosen heart children. Chosen heart means to have his understanding with his own leadership and as our Father and not man, and to be his children. I want my own land, food, animals, water, light, free thought and creation, without the above questioning or acting against me or my family and friends. I do not know my mother's great-grandmother's side, because you stole my land and theirs as well as those whom I know that never had land of their own, or the things I mentioned with it stepping in to act in one way or another, whether in the putting up of organizations or homes or apartments or businesses worldwide. I want you to stop and let us have the land for us and our children, and free to fly and move on the road God plans, and without your input. I want my brother out of jail in Albion, New York, and is being held in a prison against his will, and want my entire family out, as well as my Aunt Helen, out of supervisional hell and back to a home with her family. And I want money until God fixes the results of this case, because of my slow understanding of his own grace, and for all me, my children, friends, and family to have our own stuff, and with stoves, furniture, cars, clothes, and a way to eat, until God fixes all the hearts of his children in his own way, because so far I have no other choice but to ask for a large lump sum to ensure me and my children and friends and family, and I want them to sure we, my friends and family, have land and everything God gave us to share together. I want to be free from all news and formations of media as well, to ensure my safety and my grandma's property back that was stolen, and other properties that were paid for that did not and should not have been paid for as a result of my grandfather Albert Ford's and Thelma Ford's and the stealing of their families and friends through the government and police and organizing laws that caused me and others to question God and where his intervention was in a way to mail and retrieve packages and freedom from pornography and its lies, and no king. I have one already, and I want my property, my own home, returned to me on 115 Dean Drive in Tyrone, Georgia, and my grandmother's house on 200 Elmdorf Avenue in Rochester, New York, and the release of all the mothers who gave up babies via hospitals, as well as those stolen by Child Protective Services and adoption agencies, and the information either stolen or enforced so they can know where to find their actual children and parents. And any information, whether enforced or stolen, like the whereabouts of my family in any organization, church, governmental facility, or other agency, and any money stolen by this state and others in any way. We can be ourselves and get the necessities required for our existence on the land, meaning here and anywhere. We as a Chosen Heart family place our feet, wherever we as a Chosen Heart family place our feet, and we want God to fix the hearts of those who own way too much, like the racetrack and banks and farmlands and water and electricity, as well as other natural resources he made for all to enjoy, and with his whole heart. He loves us, but we have many variations of that love. One for family, one for children, and one for friends, and one for someone we love as a companion. I also want all my personal information, like my name, Israel, and the things that were racked up against me gone and not used against me or my entire family, as well as courts, police cams, body cams, corporate cams, police reports, phone calls, hospital records, and other forms of information. I want to be free of all the debt and consumerism, as well as free internet, free phone, and car, free to move without ID or license or any other such way to track me, my family, and friends, and Chosen Heart family. God made everything. There is nothing he did not make, including whoever reads this. And I also want to be free or hears this. I also want to be free in you too, and our family, friends, and children. I want to own. It says form of capacity or capacity property, internet phones, and free worldwide phone calls, and free travel. I want to have all these things around the world, and money to cover all the damages and loss of family, friends, and loved ones, and those in prison to be released from all false accusations of the law, and the release from all debts and accusations and student loans, car loans, home loans, and all loans, and the release of children care facilities and forced schooling and forced work, and the release of all animals, natural resources, and no zoos and other sale or forms of stealing one's natural gifts given by God himself. I want compensation for enforced slavery, to work all day and being sliced open when the doctors told me my son and daughter had to be forced into a C-section, and the ruin of my body as a result. I want no more enforced laws or governance or a forced prayer in forms of paper and physical church buildings and the language one uses to speak, or a forced protection and forced mail and mobile apps in their laws as it pertains to their laws and wording of their businesses. I want no forced sales on me, friends, and family, and Chosen Heart family. No, my soul is not for sale, and free gas, and no new or old forced uniform act, and no forced religion creating man, woman, or child, and no forced hair or hair products or food products or forced hygiene products or forced tobacco, candy, drink products, bread, sugar, coffee, chicken, beef, pork, or lamb, or groceries and products, or any product and free production. I want free production and no forced cars, forced nursing homes or senior housing, or child care, hospital care, or emergency management, or forced volunteers, or forced holistic care, no fake hand or forced hand, or city, county, state, or country, and no forced skill or talent, or forced pope, or forced paper act, or forced computer or encoding, or forced banks, or forced web and webmail, or forced auto parts, or forced contractor or builder or architect or blueprint, or forced burial. No forced medicine or concoctions, or forced public assembly, or forced fundraisers, or forced military donations, or a forced court or name, or forced housing, and forced social media, and forced no's and games, and forced apps on the phones and computers and other areas, and no forced marriages, or forced or free phone, or free or free, and I want a free telephone, and no forced television, or forced telecommunications, or branding, and forced actors and actresses, or forced script writers, or forced films, or forced rights or fights, or forced clothing, or forced image of God. No forced art, or any kind of forced food, or forced equipment, or wood, or anything God made without hands and without hands, or with hands, or forced artificial intelligence, or robotics, or on or near human bodies, or internal medicine, or surgical force. No forced period on anything. No forced period on anything or anyone or animals. No forced sex or pornography, or forced strippers, or girl and girl, or a man and a man, or forced molestations, or forced parking, or forced transportation, or forced trade, or free forced enterprise, or forced weapons, or forced production of medicine and weapons, or forced mental health, and forced social clubs, forced country clubs, or forced golf clubs, or children's clubs, or forced women or men's clubs, or forced co-ed clubs, or forced sports, or forced education, and forced toys, and forced play, or amusement parks, or forced tourism, or forced resorts, or forced charges for the fixes, for forced tattoos, or mother's birthing, or plastic surgery, or forced plastic surgery, and no forced furniture or forced production of any kind, and no forced creator to try to fix my body or my mind or anyone else's child or companion or family member. No forced sewer or forced giver, or forced sewer, or forced garbage, or forced placement of garbage, or human fecal or urination, or forced baby food, or children's books, or a forced child, or a forced mom, dad, brother or sister, cousin, aunt, and other family. No forced family, or forced adult or children cartoons, or forced children books, or forced children anything. And no forced blood or organs, or forced way to give up your children, or forced diagnosis of any kind, and no forced prescriptions or forced doctors or forced scribes or forced therapy of any kind or forced republic, no forced real estate or forced sales or forced hygiene products or forced buildings and ways to enforce building laws or forced traffic laws or forced cooking laws or forced ways to understand food or forced lies or forced mental asylums or forced jails and prisons or forced shoes and forced production, forced shoe production or forced fabrics or anything that God made for all to enjoy together and share, or forced pastor, clergy, bishop, pope, or any other forced minister, monks, or whatever the making of religion has done to stop the union of male and female, or forced music, or forced way of thought, or forced alcoholic beverages, or forced brothels or prostitution, or forced nudity, no forced sex, adult entertainment, or forced industry, or forced jewelry or sex toys, or forced holy day or holiday, or forced holiday, no forced birth certificates, social security numbers, or forced trackings, or any trackings, or when, where, and why, or a forced mom, or forced dad, or companion, or forced Christian, or forced gospel music, or any music of any kind, no forced reading, or forced psychics or magic or any kind, no forced landlords or forced tenants, depository, probate or guardianships, or forced courts, or forced Supreme Court or courts in near and far worldwide, and take out any medical instruments that were put in that don't need to be there without charge. And when God decides He will. And no forced removal of certain things I like and the Chosen Heart family likes in unison or independently. And no artificial law or act enforcement or force of it.